In the deep Gothic shadows of Russia, on August 25th, 1530, the greatest paradox of the future was born. Ivan IV Vasilievich. His destiny was written long before he was crowned. His father, Vasily III, died suddenly when Ivan was just 3 years old, and the young child suddenly possessed the crown of a colossal empire. However, this was not a legacy, but a curse. With the suspicious death of his mother, Elena, when he was 7, Ivan was completely alone. The throne offered him not a home, but a hunting ground. The greedy boyars, nobles, surrounding him saw the young Tsar only as a pawn. They treated him disrespectfully, humiliated him, and even allowed the orphaned Tsar to suffer from a lack of food in his chamber. Ivan grew up under lovelessness, fear, and the constant threat of betrayal. This left an irreparable scar on his soul. The seeds of paranoia, cruelty, and a compulsive need for absolute power were sown within the cold stone walls of the Moscow Kremlin. When he grew up, he would take revenge on this boyar class that had tormented him. In 1547, at the age of 16, Ivan was crowned Tsar of All Russia in a magnificent ceremony. His initial years were a period of surprising reform and progress. He established Russia's first standing army and convened the Sobor assemblies, composed of civil and spiritual leaders. He expanded Russia's borders eastward toward Siberia by conquering the khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan. Russia began sea trade with England, entering the ranks of Europe's great powers for the first time. This marked the pinnacle of Ivan's visionary and strategic genius. The brightest light of this golden age was his first wife, Anastasia Romanovna. Ivan held deep affection and respect for her. Anastasia's presence was the only anchor, the only refuge that maintained the Tsar's balance. However, in 1560, Anastasia suddenly died from a suspicious illness. Ivan could not cope with this death. He immediately concluded that the boyars had orchestrated an assassination. The dark seeds in his soul began to sprout. His sanity rapidly deteriorated. Paranoia turned into a ghost controlling his every move. The reformist ruler was gone, and an era of limitless horror and cruelty began. In 1565, Ivan established his apparatus of terror, the Oprichnina. Dividing the country in two, Ivan declared half of Russia his private property. The special police force, called the Oprichniki, wore black robes and tied a broom and a dog's head to their saddles. This symbolized their oath to sweep away treason and be the Tsar's loyal dogs. Their duty was to hunt, torture, and annihilate anyone who was suspected or a potential opponent. A reign of terror that would last 20 years began in Russia. Everyone he suspected or thought threatened his power, nobles, clergy, wealthy merchants, was mercilessly executed. The methods of torture defied the limits of imagination. The peak of this terror was the massacre of Novgorod in 1570. Believing a rumor that the city had betrayed him to Lithuania, Ivan unleashed his Oprichniki on the city. In the massacre, which lasted for days, thousands of innocent civilians were tortured, beaten, and drowned in the river. Historians note that the Tsar took sadistic pleasure in these acts. He even exiled his closest men to monasteries out of paranoia, beginning to believe that religion itself was a conspiracy against him. Ivan's personal life was also a reflection of this psychotic chaos. He married 7 times throughout his life. When he tired of a wife or she questioned his authority, he would forcibly confine her to a monastery, ending her life. His emotions were uncontrollable. One moment he would exhibit profound piety and pray. The next he would succumb to an unhinged homicidal urge. However, his darkest act was the destruction of his own dynasty's future. In 1582, during a violent fit of rage, he attacked his son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, for intervening with his pregnant daughter-in-law. The Tsar struck his son's head with his scepter, fatally wounding him. Although Ivan's soul experienced temporary remorse after watching his son bleed to death, this act earned him the lasting epithet of Ivan the Terrible. He was not just the Tsar of Russia, but also the executioner of his own lineage. In foreign policy, the Livonian War, which he initiated to control the Baltic Sea, prolonged itself, crippling Russia's economy and impoverishing the country. Towards the end of his reign, Ivan was grappling with the consequences of the chaos he had created. On March 18, 1584, Tsar Ivan IV suddenly collapsed and died while playing chess with Bogdan Belsky, a trusted advisor. His death immediately brought accusations of assassination. These suspicions began to clear up only centuries later. When his tomb was opened in the 1960s, traces of mercury far above the normal level were found in his bones. This discovery is accepted as strong evidence that Ivan died not from illness, but from poisoning. The Tsar who ruled by terror was likely destroyed by his own conspiracies. The legacy of Ivan the Terrible is a jarring mixture of the vision to build an empire and the madness of ruling a nation through terror. He stands in history as a terrifying, living testament to how absolute power and paranoia can corrupt the human soul and turn an empire into a bloodbath.